Republicans love to play up the American exceptionalism founding documents bullshit, but I assure you, the founding fathers were smarter than this. They were better than this. Seriously. I have enough faith in them for that, at least. These are authoritarian theocrats. This is a non-functioning civic society. A reading of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution is a rejection of these platform positions. You know, this came to light just yesterday, and immediately I knew I would have to cover it on stream, but I wasn't exactly looking forward to it. So as you all know, political parties in the United States are private organizations that emerge to support the interests of people with similar ideologies. You have, of course, the national GOP and Democratic Party, but you also have state-level orgs that do, cool state-level things. They're quite powerful, especially in the state of Texas, which is, to my understanding, the largest red state. One of the largest states in the Union, economically productive, prosperous, and the Texas Republican Party recently came out with what would you call it, I guess? Their platform list, the things they stand for. And it is psychotic. It is essentially openly anti-life. It is demonic. Yes, limit the Fed posting in chat, if at all possible. Texas Republican Party passes resolution denying legitimacy of Biden's victory in presidential election. So this is a platform position for the state of Texas Republican Party. Not just a thing they believe, it's something they're willing to put in ink, engrave in stone. The Texas Republican Party officially rejected the results of the 2020 presidential election, passing a resolution in its platform that falsely blames election fraud in 5 battleground states. The resolution refers to Mr. Biden as an acting president. They are literally claiming that he is not the current sitting president. An acting president is a president who is serving the roles and functions of the presidency, but does not occupy the position in the most formal and official sense. That is what they're claiming. It goes quite a bit further than that, though. In fact, this article... Yeah, hold on. Texas Republicans also passed a number of other far-right resolutions in the platform, demonstrating the most conservative activist strength in the state party. The platform calls for the complete abolition of abortion, prohibiting the teaching of sex ed, sexual health, or sexual choice or identity in any public school, in any grade. So abstinence-only education. No mention of gay people, trans people, whatever, at any point in any grade. So guys, all the people who were claiming that the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida was like, oh, they're just keeping the crazy sex stuff away from 5-year-olds. Nope, this is what Republicans actually believe. The state-level Republican Party platforms have always been a more authentic representation of what the party actually believes, and this puts clear, what they actually genuinely believe. Refers to homosexuality as an abnormal lifestyle choice. In 2022, we're back to this. As I understand it, this wasn't in the last platform they put out there. This is new. They're moving further right. The platform also calls for Obergefell versus Hodges, the 2015 Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide, to be overturned. The platform notes Texas retains the right to secede from the United States. It doesn't. There's never been any legal ambiguity about that. It still doesn't. One resolution called for a referendum in the 2023 general election for the people of Texas to determine whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. Another called for the U.S. to withdraw from the United Nations. This is psychotic. And this is the largest Republican state party, as I understand it. It is absolutely, completely deranged. And it represents millions of Republicans. This can't be written off as like some batshit proposal from some state legislator or some individual, this is the Republican Party. This is the direction that it's heading. This is where they are right now. There are quite a lot here. In fact, listen, let me ask you this. We can go over their platform. All right, let's get to it. It's going to be a toughie, but we're going to make it through it together, okay? So, first, let me just lead this off. We, the 2022 Republican Party of Texas, believe in this platform and expect our elected leaders to uphold these truths through acknowledgement and action. We believe in, and then of course you have a list of basic principles here. These are pretty generic and what you would expect to see. What we're really interested in is what follows. And that's what we're going to get to. All right? Constitutional issues. It goes over some more procedural stuff. I want to get to the... oh, wow, this is quite long. Anime it is. Hello. The Texas GOP platform document is way worse than what you've seen snippets of. A thread. They call for any executive order that go beyond the administration of executive authority and have the effect of legislation. Opposes any mass lockdowns and contact tracing. I think I'm going to have to double check some of this. Oh, hold on. We oppose funding or implementation of any form of contact tracing. Wow. That is absolutely insane. Contact tracing is literally just trying to find out who got sick when to see if other people might have gotten sick. This isn't even about lockdowns or personal freedom. Funding contact tracing does nothing. This is pure death cult. Like, this is literally just, let's not do the very basic, like, anti-pathogen thing. Yeah. That we discovered to do, like, decades and decades and decades ago. Absolutely deranged. Want to give parents the ability to completely control their children until they're 18. Return prayer, the Bible, 10 Commandments back to school. Create a state electoral college. Completely abolish abortion up to the moment of conception. Call a convention of states to limit the power of federal government. Oppose all calls for carbon dioxide to be classified as a pollutant. Jesus. Literally, like, existential threat to humanity. Again, I understand. I mean, if you want to, like, parse out the numbers and, wave your hands around, you can be like, oh, well, this isn't them literally being demons. Actually, this is just them serving a legitimate economic interest for oil and gas and coal. By not recognizing carbon dioxide as a pollutant, they're able to protect their... No, it's demons from hell. It's demons from hell, Yeah, the creation of a state electoral college. Oh, look, they're complaining about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Is a direct violation of Article 1, Section 10, Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, shall be redacted by Texas and all its officials. We support the Electoral College. We know they do. State Electoral College. The state legislature shall cause to be enacted a state constitutional amendment creating an electoral college consisting of electors selected by the popular votes cast within each individual state senatorial district, who shall then elect all statewide office holders. Wait. All statewide office holders? Each individual senatorial district? Wait, this would be unlosable by Republicans, right? It wouldn't even... There are only two senatorial... Wait, do they mean state senatorial or, like, federal senatorial? Hold on. They're terrified of Blexus? Yeah. Texas Senate. What? Don't do that. What this would essentially mean is that with appropriate redistricting, they would never have to worry about losing any local... Holy shit. Dude, having an electoral college determine all statewide office holders? The federal electoral college votes in the president. That's one office. You mean whoever wins the state electoral college gets to appoint every single state congressman and senator? They get to just pick from the lists there? Down to the fucking school board and the sheriff of every single district? Complete and 100% control over the entire state at every level, every city, every district, every school district, determined by a state electoral college system that they already have the power to set the district lines for. Yeah, this would essentially just be like a legitimate abolition of democracy in the state. There would be no, like, there's no, that is not a democracy. That is as much of a democracy as, like, the CCP is in China. No, Vaush, I'm pretty sure statewide means like governor, etc., not local offices. I guess it could be interpreted in either way. Statewide office holders could mean every office holder in the state, or it could mean office holders that represent the entirety of the state. It's not really clear. Either of them is psychotic. Either is psychotic. It doesn't... whatever line is parsed here, like, either are completely psychotic. Yeah, this is them abandoning, pretending that they care about democracy. We support restoring state sovereignty with the repeal of the 17th Amendment of the U.S. and the appointment of U.S. senators by the state legislators. So they want literally everything to be done by electoral college at every level. Just abolition of the 17th Amendment. Passed by Congress in 1912, the 17th Amendment allows voters to cast direct votes for U.S. senators. Yep. They just want electoral college to decide literally everything. But guys, remember, the abolition of the electoral college would be undemocratic. Never forget. Search slavery in the document. I want to see if they want to bring it back. Oh, we'll probably get there. Remove the Endangered Species Act. Abolish the EPA, okay? We oppose the abuse of the Endangered Species Act, confiscate and limit the use of personal property to infringe personal livelihood. We support the defunding of climate-justice initiatives, the abolition of the EPA, the repeal of the Endangered Species Act, and we oppose the America the Beautiful initiative, also known as the 30 by 30 program. Literally just evil. Literally just evil. Just demonic individuals. It literally, like, Captain Planet villain evil. This can't be real. What the fuck? It's not only real. This is now the official party platform of the largest and most influential state Republican Party. We're not reading a manifesto of some school shooter or like the testimony of some like one person. This is representative of millions of Republicans and voters. Add penalties that hurt corporations that lead boycotts against Texas due to legislative action to protect the right of Texans? What? Add penalties in Texas law for corporations operating in Texas who lead boycotts against Texas due to legislative actions to protect the rights of Texans to decline vaccination, protect the unborn, stop the teaching of critical race theory in schools, compete in sports with those of their own biological gender, or to protect children and juvenile against sexual organ mutilation of hormones, puberty blockers assigned to fake transition from one gender to another. This is literally like Facebook schizo posting. Like, this is indistinguishable from like, hey, what should we put in our party platform? And then they just put it on Facebook and a bunch of QAnon 70-year-olds replied. It's all buzzwords. This is also an explicit violation of the First Amendment, by the way. This is add penalties to any corporations lead boycotts due to legislative action to protect the rights of Texans that decline vaccinations. Please read it in full. It'll be such good content. Trust me, it's also really important. This might all be completely insane. Fine. Okay, starting from citizens' rights. Jesus Christ. Rights of the sovereign people, including the unborn, of course. Protecting constitutional rights regarding age. There should be a single-age majority. Okay. National Popular Vote Interstate Compact Act. We support the right to recall our elected officials. Okay. Habeas corpus. Census. In accordance with the United States Constitution, we support an actual count of only United States citizens. And we oppose Census Bureau estimates and collection of all other data. Okay, so don't include undocumented immigrants in any of our census data. Equal Rights Amendment. We call upon the 88th Texas legislature to adopt a resolution clarifying that the 1972 ratification by the 62nd Texas legislature of the proposed Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was valid only through March 22nd. What? We call upon the Texas legislature to say that the Equal Rights Amendment actually retroactively was only active for 7 years until March 22nd, 1979? This is like sovereign citizen shit. The Equal Rights Amendment, I'm just making sure I have all my wires crossed here. The Equal Rights Amendment, proposed amendment to U.S. Constitution designed to guarantee equal legal rights of all American citizens regardless of sex. Was that ever even day March 22nd, 1972? Proposed amendment. Wait, did it ever get actually put through? Oh, here we go. It was approved by the U.S. House of Representatives by the Senate March 22nd, 1972, thus submitting the ERA to the state legislators for ratification as provided by Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution. I see what it is. Constitutional amendments have to be submitted to state legislators for ratification. They want Texas to recede their affirmative vote. Parental rights. The rights of parents are foundational to Western society. Holy fucking white supremacist dog whistle there. Holy shit. This is a document of an American political party in an American state for American citizens, Western society is a term that would only be invoked here to juxtapose the values of this document against some other entity. An acceptable thing to do when the entity that you're referring to is everyone who isn't an American, because this is a political document from an American political party. Western society invokes a whole other set of connotations. We call upon the legislature to properly recognize and affirm the fundamental right of parents to make all decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children in all aspects, especially with regard to the grievous violations of the Texas educational system. No parent exercising any of these fundamental rights shall be prosecuted as domestic terrorists. That is a suspiciously specific denial right there. We support prayer, the Bible, and the Ten Commandments being returned to our schools, courthouses, and other government buildings. Good. Breaking down the separation of church and state. Right to keep and bear arms. You guys know where that goes. State sovereignty. Federally mandated legislation that infringes upon the 10th Amendment rights protection should be ignored, opposed, refused, and nullified. Texas retains the right to secede from the U.S., and the Texas legislature should be called upon to pass a referendum consistent thereto, of course. This is the state electoral college, where they want everything to be decided by the electoral college. Underfunded and unfunded mandates are unacceptable. The state of Texas must fully fund, at a minimum, the following additional costs to local governments. Indigent criminal defense, inmate healthcare in jails, indigent burials and autopsies, veteran service offices. Oh, that's nice. They want to fund inmate healthcare in jails. Wholesome 100. Equal protection for the preborn. Yeah, we know. Article 5, Convention of States. The Texas legislature should extend the call for a convention of states to limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. That's it? Okay. Energy and environment. We encourage free market solutions to providing utilities whenever possible. Hey, how's Texas's energy grid doing for it, huh? Detached from the federal grid so they could be subject to their own sets of regulations. Power grid. Yeah, oppose all efforts to classify carbon dioxide as a pollutant. Midland, not Moscow. We fully support and encourage greater energy production in the Permian Basin throughout Texas, as well as the necessary politics and infrastructure investment in roads, pipelines, and ports to support Texas workers and help America's energy security instead of increasing our reliance on foreign governments. In principle, I'm in favor of this, actually. I would just want it for green energy. Environment. We oppose... Oh, yeah, this is them wanting to get rid of the EPA and the Endangered Species Act because they're evil and literally demons. Cool. Flooding mitigation, hurricane, and early warnings of impending disaster. We support the immediate study, implementation, and construction of projects that will... Okay. Governments at all levels, push... Okay, that seems fairly standard. Oh yeah, of course, Demon Mama. It's all about protecting their right to drill until they hit the fucking molten core. We assert the state of Texas and all coastal states shall enjoy and maintain jurisdiction and control of their offshore waters up to the international water boundaries, as well as water waterways. I think that's standard. Water resources, energy production. Not now, I'm afraid. We support free market solutions and immediate removal of government barriers and direct subsidies to the production, transportation, reformulation, refining, and distribution of energy. Immediate removal to direct subsidies. Ah, nice. They want the federal government subsidies towards green energy to be gotten rid of. Cool. Coastline and offshore stuff is normally controlled by the feds. They want to control it themselves. They won't have any luck in that respect. We oppose federally directed plans and proposals that favor renewable energy sources that may constitute a nuisance. What? Or otherwise have a substantially negative impact on neighboring landowners, including harming property values to our neighborhoods, farms, and ranch areas? Windmills. They mean wind power and solar power. That's what they mean. not, poisoning the ground, air, and sea with residue from, fossil fuel extraction, not fracking, which can cause a variety of groundwater poisoning issues. They mean wind turbines. God, turbines. Sorry, it's exhausting to look at this. It's very difficult for me to recommend any solutions to stuff like this that don't, like, borderline Fed posts. Suffice to say, the people who drafted this document are fundamentally evil, cannot be negotiated with, and their removal from power is necessary if this country is to maintain its existence. That is a statement of fact. There's no way around it. Texas should take advantage of independent grid of mines by encouraging providers to build and operate traditional next-gen nuclear power plants. Sure. Free of the red tape they would otherwise incur. Oh, God, that red tape is regulation. It doesn't matter. There's no way the federal government would ever allow an abstention of federal guidelines in nuclear power plant production. Okay. To keep the federal government from interfering, Texas should also ensure the supply chain of components and fuel remain in-state and off federally claimed land. Are they trying to coup like double? They're trying to do a double coup? We will ignore federal regulation for nuclear power plant. Vaush, they're just gearing up to secede. Texas can't secede. It's a dream. Balkanize the U.S.? I want to balkanize Texas. Markets and regulation, oh boy. We encourage the legislature to preempt local government's efforts to interfere with state sovereignty over business employees' property rights. This includes, but is not limited to, burdensome regulations on short-term rentals, bags, sick leave, trees, and employee criminal screening. Short-term rentals, bags, sick leave, trees, employee criminal screening. Okay. We support allowing any person to sit for the Texas State Bar exam, regardless of educational background, so long as criminal and ethical background requirements are met. We oppose mandatory state bar membership for Texas lawyers. We favor restricting those who may file grievances in the legal disciplinary process of Texas to those who have standing. Further, we support sanctions for those who weaponize and politicize the legal disciplinary process in Texas. The Saul Goodman Army. Yeah, no, they want theological lawyers. They want an army of ideologues, essentially. Reduce business regulations. We believe the following businesses should be minimally regulated at all levels. Repeal minimum wage law and prevailing wage laws. Repeal Dodd-Frank. Just to make sure my memory isn't failing me, let's know what these all mean. Dodd-Frank, Wall Street reform. Yeah, this was passed after the 2008 financial crisis to make it so that wouldn't happen again. Great. Sarbanes-Oxley. I don't think I know what that is. Oxley, 2002. A federal law that mandates certain practices in financial record keeping and reporting. Okay. They want to get rid of some federal guidelines for record keeping and reporting. Okay. The Lacey Act, which was put forward back in 1900. A law that bans trafficking in fish, wildlife, or plants that are illegally taken, possessed, transported, or sold. However, in 2008, the Lacey Act was amended to include a prohibition on trade in plant products such as timber and paper harvested in violation of foreign law. There it is. State laws. Eliminate blue laws. Texas blue law banned the sale of an odd collection of 42 items on both days of the weekend? Oh, this is one of those archaic... Okay, I guess I'm fine with those being removed. Yeah, this is one of those 200-year-old don't sell a fish on the third Wednesday of the month type deals. Eliminate the 3-tier alcohol system. I don't know enough about it to say. Allow auto manufacturers to sell directly to consumers as opposed to through dealerships. I don't know enough about the law here. Business licensing. Wait, They want to repeal the concept of state business license. Wait, not a law. They just want to get rid of business licensing. Okay. As well as professional licensing. Like being a doctor? Wait, how many Okay. Purchase of edible products from small farms. What? Use of hemp as an agricultural commodity. Minimum wage laws. Blue laws. Mandatory sick and family leave. So they just don't want it to be legal for a city to decide that businesses have to provide mandatory sick family leave. Do you remember what I've said to you guys about fascism and libertarianism being parallel in the United States? What we're seeing here is a massive revocation of civil and economic rights exclusively to the benefit of corporations, no matter how cartoonishly evil it is or how much harm it does. Trade agreements. We support free trade as a necessary component of American capitalism and of America's influence in the world, but all trade agreements between the federal government and other nations should strictly adhere to the U.S. Constitution and require approval by 2/3 of the Senate. What? Adhere to the U.S. Constitution? Trade agreement between us and other countries? 2/3 Senate? Okay. Origin labeling. I'm fine with origin labeling. Predatory towing. We urge text legislation. Increasing the criminal penalties resulting from predatory towing and decreasing the state allowed amount the tower can charge. I think I'm okay with that too. Predatory towing is a real issue. Yeah, they're claiming all trade agreements should be handled as treaties. Municipal permitting. We call on the Texas legislature to continue to streamline the building permitting to encourage legislative implementation. Okay. Texas resistance to the Great Reset. Holy shit, dude. This was literally made by, like, QAnoners. The Great Reset is literally just a term that was bantied about by some, like, corporate and economic policy think tanks. It's not a policy. The Great Reset it's not a policy. It's not a set of things. It's not anything. It's a buzzword that was talked about, yeah, at the World Economic Forum for a bit to describe economic changes following the COVID lockdowns. It wasn't some big plan. There was no international effort made. It just, yeah. Ban corporations who attempt to suppress funding for tech industries by doing business with the state of Texas and its subdivisions. Wait. Ban corporations from doing business with the state of Texas? As in, the state of Texas can't contract work? What? Make it illegal for banks and financial institutions operating in Texas to make lending decisions based on anything other than financial concerns? Okay. The model for such legislation should be that which was promulgated by President Trump's office, which was immediately suspended by the current occupant of the White House, who they refrain from calling President Biden because they don't think he's the president. That's a very normal thing for a state platform to do, by the way. Add penalties in Texas law for corporations in Texas who lead boycotts against Texas. Yeah, we've been over this one before. Add explicit protections for the natural right of Texans to keep in exchange and store their wealth in mediums of exchange, including digital currency, gold and silver coin, bullion, cash, and scrip. Of choice, the Texas Bill of Rights. This will help stop global institutions and the federal government from forcing Texans to use the financial services and currency dictated by them. These people are absolutely psychotic. Jesus Christ. Scrip? What are they going to do? Bring back corporate towns? Yes, they are. I'm pretty sure that if they got everything they wanted in here done, corporate towns would be the only kind left. Consider the expansion or use of Texas antitrust laws prohibit collusions between woke corporations to cancel / drive others out of business. Listen to them. Consider the expansion or use of existing antitrust laws to prohibit collusion between woke corporations, aka we're anti-big government, but we will use and abuse Texas's antitrust laws to prevent progressive companies from working together. So the free market, unless corporations in that free market are progressive, in which case we will use the power of the government to crush them to keep them from outperforming other less progressive corporations. To cancel others out of business. That feel win. So CCP, I'm actually going to drop a bit of a hot take here, and I actually think that if all of this was implemented, the state of Texas would be less democratic and less representative of the people's will than China. I actually believe that. The primary difference here is that the CCP ultimately organizes capital in the service of the interests of the state. They're not a democracy, but they do channel like corporate interest towards state interest, which does often overlap with some goods of the citizenry. In this case, though, there's no such guarantee. The corporations here are psychotic and completely uninterested in the well-being of the people beneath them. I mean, prevent recognition of carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas? We support reversing state and federal legislation and court's decision that have damaged patent rights for Texas, blah, blah. Abolishing administrative tribunals, restoring injunctive relief, thus restoring the U.S. patent system for America back to leading the world. Okay. Government accountability. We oppose any distribution of taxpayer dollars to unions, okay? We support privatization of the Social Security system, of course. We urge Congress to overturn the rules of the U.S. Department of Labor restricting volunteerism by paid firefighters and emergency medical technician personnel. National Guard and declare. ESOPs. Republicans support maximum economic opportunity for all citizens and believe that legal limits on employee ownership of Texas firms by employee stock ownership plans should be eliminated. We support maximum economic opportunity, so we believe there should be legal limits on employee ownership of Texas firms. We also believe changes in ownership from private individuals to majority ownership by an ESOP should not create a disadvantage when doing business in the state of Texas. Oh, they want to remove those limits. Okay, gotcha. Wait. Republicans support maximum legal limits should be eliminated. My bad. Thank you. Gotcha. Unions. We support legislation requiring labor unions to obtain consent of the union member before that member's dues can be used for political purposes. We oppose card check. Texas should prohibit government entities from collecting dues from for labor unions through deduction from public employee paychecks. We also encourage the adoption of a National Right to Work Act. This is pretty expected, I think. Freedom to travel. We oppose Biden infrastructural green energy plan that threatens our freedom to travel, imposes a federal mileage tax, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or other social justice policies on Texas taxpayers and their dollars. We oppose anti-car measures that punish those who choose to travel alone in their own personal vehicle, and oppose any measure to impose road diet mandates designed to shrink auto capacity or intentionally clog vehicle lanes. Highways forever, lads. We urge the Texas legislature to protect drivers from these California-style anti-driver policies in Texas. Never been on the 405, it seems. Toll roads. We believe tolls should come off the road when the debt is retired, and if the debt is ever restructured or refinanced, the payoff debt needs to maintain the same. I don't know enough about tolling to really have an opinion here. Taxpayer money should not fund or subsidize high-speed rail, nor should eminent domain be used in the construction of high-speed rail. Literally, like, flat out, we will just make it illegal to build rail. Like, yeah. COVID response. Businesses shall not be held liable for any customer frequents their business and is later confirmed to test positive for COVID-19. We urge the Texas legislature to adopt legislation that recognizes and establishes all businesses and jobs are essential and a fundamental right. Governments do not have the authority to determine what entities are essential during an emergency. By the way, that means the next time there's an emergency, all entities in Texas will be designated emergency by their employers. No government entity may require a business to act as enforcement of the state. Egregious action. Local governments require business to enforce mask mandates or be fined or closed. Great. Privacy. Information freedom of the internet. Doxing and swatting. We recommend state legislature to consider modifying existing state law to take into account the implication of doxing and swatting. Okay. Sure. Streamer laws. Fitting, considering the fact that this all reads like it came straight off 4chan. We oppose efforts to implement net neutrality on internet service providers, of course. All rights to privacy individuals having their homes should be restored all digital data. We call upon Texas to prohibit vendors from selling or sharing data or capturing service in Texas. Okay. Social media freedom. Here we go. Here we go, lads. We call on our congressional delegation to push for reform of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to limit the ability of online social media platforms to censor the speech of citizens in the new digital town square. Once again, that is literally not what repealing Section 230 would do, which they currently control. We support Texas legislative efforts such as House Bill 20 that afford Texas residents the power to sue big tech companies for targeting and censorship. So they want people in the state of Texas to be able to sue Twitter for banning them. Gotcha? We support hackbacks, defined as counterattacks aimed at disabling or collecting information against a perpetrator as a legitimate form of self-defense of persons and organizations in order to ensure their cybersecurity. The right to defend ourselves in the current era must be expanded in order to... What the fuck am I Ann Capistan shit out here. Sir, you violated the NDP. Fucking counter hacking? What? Stand your ground with hacking? What? Is this a way of them saying they want people to be able to legally cyber attack social media companies if they're banned from social media? This is a horrible idea. Finance. Elected officials work to reverse the current trend of expanding government, the growing tax debt burdens on we the people. Government spending is out of control. Amend the Texas Constitution with a stricter spending limitation based on U.S. Census population data plus inflation, as well as the Consumer Price Index. Any budget surplus should be applied to property tax relief. Really? Oh, what a fucking coincidence. Any budget surplus should be applied where? To property tax relief. To go towards the wealthiest people already. Yeah, property tax relief. That's the group that all budget surpluses. Yep, money right back in the hands of the wealthy and powerful. Meaning, by the way, that if you have state legislators who are deciding on the state budget, who are friends with people who could benefit from property tax relief, all they have to do is deliberately not fill the budget, and then they would get direct government kickbacks via property tax relief as a class. We oppose the use of the rainy day fund to expand government. Okay. Texas legislators shall enact new rules to begin transition government pensions for public employees for defined pension benefit. Yeah, okay. They want to get them off the regular benefit plan. We oppose any expansion of gambling. We oppose and call for a veto of any budget that relies on expansion of legalized gambling as a method of finance. What happened to free market? Truth in taxation. We urge taxes established for a particular purpose shall not be used for any other purpose. Tax revenue derived from gasoline taxes and all other taxes and fees in our vehicles should only be used for road construction maintenance, not diverted towards any other use, including mass transit, rail, restrictive lanes, and bicycle paths. They're very insistent it has to be cars. It has to be legally impossible to do anything other than the thing we've already been doing that doesn't work. You will drive, and you will have no choice in the matter. Observe Dallas, Texans. This is all you get. Your anti-big government will make it literally fucking impossible for anything else to be the case. You will live in a hell of your own creation. This is all you will get. We support all government entities compiling and publicly posting their current debt, future obligations, financial statement, check registers, and all government contracts on their official websites. I don't know enough about this to know whether this is a bad idea or not. Repeal taxes. We support abolishing the following. The estate tax. Really? You want to get rid of the one tax that disproportionately affects the wealthy? inventory taxes, business finance taxes, taxes on phone and internet services, Affordable Care Act home sales tax. Okay. Federal taxes. We support a flat tax or the replacement of the income tax with a consumption tax that reduces the overall tax burden. Yes, a flat tax. Flat tax on around Texas. Impact fees. Use of counties, municipalities to ensure new growth pays the impact government services. Once again, remember, this is literally the most influential state Republican body. The most powerful element of the Republican Party in America is the federal one, and this is the second most powerful one. Freeze public spending on state higher education until waste and administrative costs are reduced. Freeze public spending? Wait, not just prevent budget increases, but freeze public spending? Oh, hey, and what a coincidence. Just today, the Supreme Court ruled, I think it was the state of Maine, is violating constitutional rights if taxpayer money doesn't go to private religious schools. It's all coming together. Defund big government, not the police. Any large city or county that cuts its police budget by more than 10% should be required to cut its property tax revenue by the same or greater percentage. Hey, city, you want to divert some of the funding away from your police and towards some other civic service? Nope. Instead, you have to complement that reduction in budget by reducing property taxes. So the wealthiest people in the area get more money. Again, I understand that at this point I'm just sort of reading these out dejectedly, but it should be noted that, like, these people are, again, completely evil. Democracy cannot survive them, and history will remember these people the same way they remember the Nazis. I'm not joking when I say that. Stuff like this will be relayed in history books right alongside pictures taken from the Nazi rallies held in America before the beginning of the war. These people are ideologically perfectly in line with those groups. A lot of them probably are crypto or openly Nazis. The earlier bit about Western civilization is pretty telling, and every single thing written here is exactly what Nazis would want. I don't joke when I mean that, or when I say that. I mean it 100% sincerely. Because it has been the prerogative since the 1960s and the passage of the Civil Rights Act for ultra-right-wing nationalists to get their policy prescriptions done, not directly through race-based platforms, but indirectly through economic platforms that end up having the same functional outcomes. We support saving a permanent school fund for future generations and oppose raiding it or using it as additional source of funding. Okay. Axe the property tax. Wow, you want to lower the property tax, really? For businesses, individual with an alternative other than income tax and requiring voter approval to increase the overall tax burden, we urge the legislator to immediately develop and implement a transition plan that is a net tax cut. Property tax relief. Oh, more property tax relief. More. We support these incremental steps towards the ultimate abolition of property tax. Do you like that, guys? That means that once a house is paid off, if you live there, it is free. Free. But if you rent, if you're never wealthy enough, this is literally like a 1776 distinction. They want to create two economic classes. People who can afford to own a home and people who will never be able to. If you're wealthy enough to own a home, then you get to pass it on to your children and your children's children and your children's children. There's no estate tax, so nothing gets taxed on the way, and there's no property tax, so there's no downside to owning it. But if you're not wealthy enough to own a home, you have to rent, and that's all you'll ever get to do. Because, as the property tax is nil, that means that these... there's no structural incentive against homeowners from preventing the development of new housing so that they can keep their housing price going up and up and up for potential resale to wealthy people in the future. No, zero incentive to sell. There'd be just, this is essentially feudalism. We urge Texas legislature to amend the Texas election code to require bond issues be approved by 2/3 majority of those voting and only if 20% of all registered voting in the district cast ballots. I'm sure this is horrible, but I don't know enough about bonds for me to really comment on it. I'm sure this is psychotic, but I don't know enough about it to really claim anything. Administrative blow does not transformative. At a minimum, 65% revenue percent in the classroom. Okay. Property tax abatements. Really? You want to abate property tax. They've dedicated more points to this than anything else. I wonder why. Bailouts and subsidies. Divest all ownership businesses should be run by the private sector. We oppose all bailouts of and subsidies to domestic and foreign. Eliminate federal activity. We call upon the federal government to stop the following. Community Reinvestment Act. Community Reinvestment Act. Community Reinvestment Act is a U.S. federal law designed to encourage commercial banks and savings associations to help meet the needs of borrowers in all segments of their community, including low and moderate income neighborhoods. Essentially, they want it to be legal for banks to just not loan out to low and middle income people. Funding of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. Ownership or insurance related to the Federal National Mortgage Association, Federal Home Loan SM Corporation. Vaush these taxes. Tax dollars should not be used to fund the building of stadiums. Oh, finally, something I agree on. Jesus. We support abolishing the Federal Reserve. Of course you do, because this is psychotic. Because this is moon logic. Yeah, of course they, yeah, obviously, of course they do. Right to use cash and cash subsidies. We went over that. Education, parents' rights. Texas families should be empowered to choose between public, private, charter, or homeschool options for their children's education. The funding should follow the student. The funding should follow the student. So even if they go to private schools, right. Or homeschool options, which incentivizes homeschool heavily because now the government would be paying them for it. We also support tax credits and exemptions for education and choice within the public school system. We oppose any attempt to regulate homeschooling or the curriculum of private or religious schools. Wait, so they have to provide federal funding to private or religious schools, but there's no curriculum standard at all for them? They could just go in there, sit in a room for 8 years, and then walk out? Yeah, okay. Or homeschooling. Parental rights and education. Parents are the primary educators and disciplinarians of their children, to which all other entities are inferior. The fundamental rights of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children in all aspects, but especially in regard to Texas educational system, shall be recognized, affirmed, and protected by changes to the Texas Constitution, Texas laws. Enforcement of parental rights. Isn't it interesting how whenever talking about what children need or what's best for children, it's framed as parental rights? Isn't that a little bit odd? Like, shouldn't it be the child's rights? We can probably summarize the upcoming paragraphs as they want to be able to rape children and get away with it, but I'll go through it, just for posterity's sake. Parents need more effective mechanisms to enforce their rights in education. We support the creation of impartial ombudsmen in both general education and special education. We call upon the legislator to establish groups for appeals, parents' files. Enforcements must include criminal, civil, and other enforcement measures while giving the state and private citizens a right to sue outside local grievance process with expedited enforcement? We call for development parents' need to know and consent booklet. Parents of state federal pupil protects right amendment and the Children Internet Protection Act. We call for reforms to the disciplinary alternative education program. We demand the state legislature pass a law prohibiting the teaching of sex education, sexual health, or sexual choice or identity in any public school, in any grade whatsoever, or disseminating or permitting the dissemination by any party of any material regarding the same. All school districts, individual schools, or charter schools, what does individual school mean? Private school? Are prohibited from contracting with or making any payment to any third party for material concerning any of the above topics. Until that's homeschooling? Gotcha. Okay, so no laws whatsoever on curriculum, except it will be illegal for private or charter schools to give sex ed. So no restrictions at all on curriculum, except they can't do this. Until this prohibition goes into effect, sexual education shall only utilize sexual risk avoidance programs and promote abstinence outside of marriage. Oh, so they actually want to go beyond abstinence-only education. The temporary holdover is abstinence-only education. They want complete silence on the topic. Forced to may be provided with human sexuality, family instruction. The district must obtain the written consent of the parents or the student's parent or guardian. We request the Texas legislature pass legislation that requires Texas schools and libraries to filter inappropriate and or harmful content such as pornography for minors. Think they already do that. Operators of adult sex entertainment businesses and venues. They mean drag queen story hour. Adult entertainment of any kind, including drag queen story hour. How the fuck do I know? This entire document is purely filled by like outrage bait and like culture war, you know, like culture war buzzwords, of course. Shall not be part of educational programs of the taxpayer-funded school for children. We support, again, no curriculum guidelines, except we support passive law more comprehensive than the Florida law, which prohibits instruction in sexual orientation, gender identity in public school. We advocate for those who violate any of the above to have their educator's certification revoked and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law where appropriate. Legislators shall prohibit reproductive health care services, including counseling, referrals, and distribution of condoms and contraception through public schools. We support parents' right to choose without penalty which medication are administered to their minor children. Without penalty, which medications are... Okay, prayer healing, faith healing. We support informed consent of parents before any school-based mental health assessments or interventions are performed. We urge school administrators and officials not to infringe on Texas school students and staff's right to pray and engage in religious speech, individually or in groups, on school property without government interference. We urge the legislature to end censorship of discussion of religion in our founding documents. End censorship of discussion of religion in our founding documents. You can... It's not there. The Constitution is quite brief on the matter. By founding documents, they probably mean like adjacent founding father stuff. And encourage discussing those documents, including the Bible as their basis. Right. They just want all schools to be religious schools. Curriculum. I thought we weren't regulating curriculum. I get, okay. Language arts, phonetics, reading institutions, civics, which includes passing the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services test. A normal thing to require. Mathematics, which has correct answers and focuses on how to arrive them. 1 typo, 2 what? D, science, E, social studies, here we go. Including geography, economics, U.S. and world history, such instruction should focus on American exceptionalism. Again, this is not at all dissimilar. In fact, as we're about to read in the curriculum, if you want to go read on the curriculum of the Hitlerjugend or the German school system under the Nazis, you will find parallels. I haven't even read this yet, and you will find parallels. I don't even need to read this. I could blind read this. American exceptionalism, the benefits of a free enterprise system, and includes instruction on the consistent failures of socialism and communism. Not propaganda, by the way. Founding documents in high school, we support a high school level curriculum rather than 8th grade level for the study of American history that is heavily weighted towards the study of the original founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Constitutional Convention, the Federalist Papers, and the Founders' Writings. See, this is the funny thing, and this is one of the things that, like, I know for a fact that the people who made this platform haven't read the founding documents. The founding documents were written by people who would have had these men shot. This is 100%, I am completely, if the people who wrote these documents could go back in time and describe them to the founding fathers, they would have been shot in the back of the head and dumped into the harbor. Every one of them. This is psychotic and fundamentally opposed to the basic... You know, the funny thing is, like, Republicans love to play up the American exceptionalism founding documents bullshit, but I assure you, the founding fathers were smarter than this. They were better than this. Seriously. I have enough faith in them for that, at least. These are authoritarian theocrats. You know, these are this is a non-functioning civic society. This, you know, a reading of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution is a rejection of these platform positions. But American identity, oh boy. Oh boy. We favor strengthening our common American identity, which includes the contribution and assimilation of diverse racial and ethnic groups. Assimilation being, I assume, the dominant trend there. We reject critical race theory as a post-Marxist ideology that seeks to undermine the system of law and order itself and to reduce individuals to their group identity alone. We support legislation to remove this ideology from government programs, including education involving race, discrimination, and racial awareness. So there you go, right there. Get rid of post-Marxist critical race theory ideology by removing any education on race or discrimination. You won't be taught on slavery anymore or the civil rights movement. That's very explicit right here. To facilitate the appreciation of our American identity, the contrast between freedom and the tyrannical history of socialism/communism throughout history must be taught. Students shall pledge allegiance to the United States and Texas flags daily to instill patriotism. Students have the right to display patriotic items on school property. Schools should have the options to display the national motto, "In God We Trust." We support objective teaching of scientific theories, such as life origins and climate change. They already have you pledge allegiance to the Texas flag. The difference is, right now you get to say no. These shall be taught as... Hold on. We support objective teaching of scientific theories, such as life origins, read evolution, and climate change. These shall be taught as challengeable scientific theories subject to change as new data is produced. Teachers and students shall discuss the strengths and weaknesses of these theories openly without fear of retribution or discrimination of any kind. Would this also remove Holocaust education? I am very, very, very sure. You know what? I'll go ahead and say it right here. I genuinely think that the people who write textbooks under this regime would skip the World War II section except as a preamble to the evils of the Soviet Union. I really do believe that. I think that a history book written by these people would have more in it describing crimes committed against the Wehrmacht by the Soviet Union than it would mentions of the Holocaust. And if it does mention the Holocaust, it would be in the context of the condemnation of the Soviet liberation of the camps they came across first. It would all be exclusively framed in that context. Too late, that already happened. Oh, well, never mind. South Lake school teacher tells teachers to balance Holocaust books with opposing views. Okay, well, there you go. Oh yeah, this was from last year. I think I remember that. Buy guns. Buy guns. Buy ammunition. We oppose the use of national or international standards in the state of Texas. Right, Common Core. They hate Common Core. We also oppose the modification of college entrance exams to reflect any national core philosophies. Any school district that violates state law banning the use of a national core curriculum or standard shall lose all state funding. Okay, making it legally impossible for any school district to use a national curriculum for academic achievement, meaning they will have to use the Texas-based standard, meaning that people will get into college based on how they can haw, or how many black people they can curb stomp or whatever. We encourage non-English speaking students to transition via best practices to English within 2 years, allowing them to... What does this mean? Encourage? This means nothing. All instructional materials paid for by state funds shall be vetted by the State Board of Education. We oppose appropriation of state funds. This approved process must continue to include education on humanity of the preborn child. Texas students should learn about the humanity of the preborn child. I like how that's in all caps because they're not even hiding the fact that it's like an insane religious doctrine, including life-affirming definitions of life and the study of life. Life begins at fertilization, milestones of fetal development at the 2-week gestational periods, use of baby fetal models, witnessing a live ultrasound. Holy shit! Time for your fucking 3 weeks dedicated to why abortions are morally wrong. Holy fuck. Governance. Abolish Department of Education. Yeah, figures. Elected SBOE. Can this even legally be passed? Under the current law, no. something like 2/3 of the things that they've advocated for here, I'm pretty sure are either impossible or completely unconstitutional. Or just against existing laws, you know. A lot of this is virtue signaling, but this is what they want. And you know, they have the Supreme Court. Also, yeah, how the fuck do they teach all this shit about, like, natal development without talking about where babies come from, which they're legally barred from doing? How do you talk about what fertilization is? School security. We support passage of a statute which permits local law enforcement to provide handgun safety and proficiency training for all educators, and allows LTC holders to conceal or carry firearms in the premises of pre-K through 12 schools for security and protection purposes. You heard it here, folks, people. Everyone with a license to carry will be able to just bring concealed carry guns onto school. Right. We call for a repeal or revision of Senate Bill 393. We call for mandatory reporting to law enforcement of school children who have committed violent acts on school property. Oh, this is how they arrest black kids. Basically, it used to be that if you roughed someone up in a fight, you got sent to the principal's office, but now there's a school resource officer and you get fucking booked and that shit goes in your legal record. So they want mandatory reporting because they know this disproportionately affects people of color because they're way more likely to be reported. School boards. Withdraw from taxpayer-funded lobby groups like TASB. Okay. Enforcement of open meetings. We support requiring audio or video recording of closed sessions and allowing taxpayers to seek limited civil penalties for school customers. Okay. Gender identity. The official position of the Texas schools shall be that there are only two genders, biological male and biological female. We oppose transgender normalizing curriculum and pronoun use. So that not only do they oppose its curriculum, the use of they oppose calling trans women her. Like, the state opposes correct gendering. And yeah, pronoun use, we know. Well, the biological men shall compete against other biological men. Yeah, we know. Until the legislature removes sex education from the curriculum in public schools, the state of Texas should adopt changes to Texas Education Code 28004 to require every member of the school board of trustees to close loopholes in order to prohibit contraception distribution, demonstration, expansion. Okay. Foreign charter schools. Charter schools should have accountability and transparency. Okay. Higher education. God, this goes on forever. How... I feel like the point has been well demonstrated. God. Fuck. Yeah, it just keeps going. It's insanely long. It's completely unedited. No, keep going? Okay. This is gonna make for a terrible fucking video. You know that, right? College costs are out of control. Reform is... I'm like slurring half my words now. Reform is urgently required, including the following. We oppose mass cancellation of student loan obligation, but support tax credits and interest rate reductions to ease the burden of students deeply in debt, right? We oppose in-state tuition and financial aid for illegal aliens. Funds and support Western civilization instruction. Defend political defund political correctness. So again, this is for higher education. Like Hillsdale College, we agree that state universities shall value the merit of each individual uniquely rather than succumbing to the discriminatory trend of so-called social justice. We oppose any state formula funding or graduation requirements for divisive curricula inconsistent with the above, including Marxist, anti-American, critical race theory, multicultural, or diversity, equity, inclusion courses. Of course, none of these actually mean anything. This is just any progressive courses would be banned. We oppose using public funds for homosexuality, transgender, or diversity, equity, inclusion centers. Public universities should be required to create a comprehensive program of instruction in Western civilization, American institution, and free market liberty principles with centers and funding dedicated to that task. Campus speech. We urge the Texas legislature to recognize the rights of those on campus to practice their faith and their right to free speech. We support withdrawal of public funding from any college or university within the state that actively or passively discriminates or permits discrimination against the free speech of either student or guest speakers. They just Milo Yiannopoulos, Berkeley shit. Student groups shall have the unfettered right to elect their leaders, choose their members, and set their organization's mission, purpose, and standard of conduct. Abolish the system of tenure and replace it with a merit-based system for teacher retention. Very specific, thank you. All Texas students shall have equal access to all state-supported university admissions, grants, scholarships, and loans. Support the medical students' religious liberties. Oh, God. All persons have the right of conscience and should be protected under Texas law if they conscientiously object to participate in practices that conflict with their moral or religious beliefs. This includes, but is not limited to, abortion, including any requirement for a medical resident or physician to perform an elective abortion on an opt-out basis instead of an opt-in basis, the prescription for or dispensing of drugs with abortifacient potential. Oh, nice. So they should have the legal right not only to not perform an abortion, but also to not give out any medications that can cause an abortion, of which there are several that are not like abortion medications. It's not just banning Plan B. They could be banning any medication, no matter how medically relevant, that has the potential to abort a life. This is already a law in Texas, is it? Human cloning, embryonic cell research, eugenic screenings, genetic engineering, euthanasia, assisted suicide, harmful, futile procedures. Harmful, futile procedures? They mean medical transition. That's the only thing here that makes sense. It's futile, not fetal. It could be a typo. There are typos everywhere, but vaccines, of course, and the withdrawal of nutrition and hydration. Why is Texas like this? Republicans all over the country are like this. Texas is just they're just being more straightforward about it. You're not going to see the National Republican Party condemn this. Have they? No, they haven't, because they agree with this. We urge the legislature to continue funding and operating state-supported living centers for the mentally disabled. How nice. Support parents' right to choose or reject prior written consent. Each medication middle. We support parents' right to choose or reject with prior written informed consent without penalty each medication and mental health assessment or survey administered to their child. Good luck, kids. If your parents are crazy faith, prayer healing, crystal healing types, you're not getting any help until you're 18. Government-funded health programs, parental safeguard. We support abolishing the Texas Child Mental Health Care Consortium, the trauma-informed care policy, school-based mental health providers, school-based, school-connected mental health. Okay. Welfare reform. We support the abolition of all federal welfare programs, we know, as they are not an appropriate role of the federal government. Until such time, welfare reform should encourage partnerships with faith-based institutions, community, and business organizations to assist individuals in need. We encourage welfare reform in the following areas. Denying benefits to individuals who cannot prove citizenship. Reforming welfare providers requirements to work, learn, and train to move forward from self-sufficiency. Reforming welfare programs to require recipients to remain substance abuse-free in exchange for temporary benefits. Not exceeding 2 years? As in they have to be clean for 2 years? Random drug testing. Implementing a non-monetary based assistance program for providing supplemental food benefits. We have that. Benefits last for 2 years? Okay. Removing prisoners from welfare rolls. Great. Child support related to mothers applying for government financial support. Exempting rape victims should provide the verifiable name and any known contact information of the birth father, which information shall be turned over to the State of Texas Attorney General's office within 30 days for collection of child support. So you have to give the dad up. You have to claim that you were raped, or you have to give the dad up if you want to get welfare. Which means they're trying to create a database on deadbeat dads. We're citing disability claims. We call for stronger and more stringent reviews of disability claims. Ah, yes. The problem destroying our nation. Too many people getting our incredibly generous disability benefits, right? We support Medicaid block grants the states returning Medicaid to its original purpose to be a temporary assistance program. Medicare should have a non-penalized opt-out for those who have health insurance through their employer and continue to work. Okay. We demand the appeal of Obamacare, of course. We call on the Texas legislature to support home and community-based services as a pro-life alternative, as an alternative for children and adults with disabilities. What they mean is they want you to keep your babies and they want you to keep your disabled and elderly people in the home. Homosexuality and gender issues. Homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. We believe there should be no granting of special legal entitlements or creation of special status for homosexual behavior regardless of state of origin, and we oppose any criminal or civil penalties against those who oppose homosexuality out of faith, conviction, or belief in traditional values. No one should be granted special legal status based on their LGBTQ identification. Reminder, these people want you in death camps. You know, I've been saying this for not that long a time, but I hope by now everyone watching can appreciate the fact that I am completely correct. There is just no interpretation of this entire document, which is not, we want a theocratic, feudalistic, ANCAP authoritarian dictatorship. And like, we, like, the Untermensch get to, like, die, and that's it. We oppose all efforts to validate gender identity for the purpose of attempting to affirm a person aged 21 or under if their perception is inconsistent with their biological sex. No medical practitioner or provider may engage in the following practices: intervene in any way to prevent the natural progression of puberty, administer... Wait, didn't they say that there should be one single age of majority at 18? Why is this one set at 21? This is inconsistent with their own document. Administer, provide opposite sex hormones, perform any surgery on healthily body parts of the underage person. Underage in this case being 21 or under. No taxpayer funding for sex change. We oppose the use of taxpayer funds for any kind of medical dysphoria treatments or sex change operations and or treatments. I.e., none of this can be done at a public hospital. This includes, but is not limited to, military personnel, as well as inmates in federal, state, local prisons or jails. Can't be done if you're in prison or in the military. Inmates must be housed according to their biological sex. Counseling methods. Therapists, psychologists, and counselors licensed in the state of Texas shall not be forbidden or penalized by any licensing board for practicing reintegrative therapy. This is conversion therapy. Other counseling methods when counseling clients of any age, genders for unwanted same-sex attraction. Right. We oppose legalization and decriminalization of illicit natural and or illegal synthetic drugs, and we support the exercise of a zero-tolerance policy with maximum penalty for illegal drug manufacturers and distributors. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. For a second, I read we support legalization, decriminalization. I was very confused for a second. Congress should remove cannabis from the list of Schedule 1, move to Schedule 2. Oh, shit. The fascist, Republican GOP is more progressive on marijuana than Joe Biden is. Great. The state of Texas shall recognize that pornography is a public health hazard. We call upon our elected leaders to compel any websites displaying pornographic content in Texas to implement age verification for preventing minors from accessing the content, and block or punish any such websites that continue to make such material available to minors. Don't they already have that? Like everywhere? Every time I go onto a new porn site or whatever, it all has that you're 18 or older or whatever. I mean, okay. I don't know if that does anything. You can just... They want you to show ID? That's wild. The state of Texas shall recognize that pornography and are public health hazards. I like this conflation right here. I'm pretty sure is already regarded as a public health hazard. Considering that in the United States, literally means I have sexual desire to do. Feel like the definition's already pretty inclusive here. I'm surprised this doesn't say homosexuality and pornography, to be honest with you. Healthcare independence. Therefore, the following are expressly forbidden even in an emergency or a pandemic. Basically, you can't force people to wear masks. You can't do lockdowns. You can't do contact tracing. You can't do... Wait, how are they talking about trans stuff even here? A school, public or private, any healthcare provider withholding from a parent or legal guardian information that is relevant to the physical or mental health of the minor, to include info relating to a minor's perception that his or her gender or sex is inconsistent with his or her biological sex. Vaccine stuff, guardian stuff, I get it. They want you to die. Any Nuremberg Code violations? No, guys, they're saying that you can't do a Nuremberg Code violation. Just funny they would put it there. To protect the right of both patient and physicians should adopt the following provisions in its Texas Medical Practice Act. Protect the right of patients to choose natural solutions, including chiropractic care to their health problems, as well as the physician's right to provide natural solutions for health problems. Wow, right there. We're literally just getting rid of the Hippocratic Oath right here. A physician's right to provide natural solutions for health problems. As in, a licensed doctor would now have the right to perform pseudoscience. Eliminate confidential complaints against physicians. Eliminate anonymous medical witnesses against physicians. Mandate legal due process in all TMB proceedings. Allow physicians the right to have a complaint against them tried in a state district court rather than an administrative law court. Every complaint you file against a physician now has to be tried in a state district court. Texas, what are you doing? Guys, I want you to not think about this as a Texas thing. This is a Republican thing. Again, this has been made public for over a day now. It has not been met with condemnation from Republicans broadly in the country. They all want this to varying extents. It's really just a question of how well they'd be able to do it. They're evil. The GOP, the elected officials, are evil people. They like your suffering. Do not complicate this with phony, pseudo-sociological explanations for their motivations. You can do them if you want. You can go back and read, what the physicians at Auschwitz were doing to the Jewish patients under their scalpel. You can go, oh, well, when they, refused to use anesthesia and then laughed while cutting open their organs, that was obviously a product of... I mean, you can do that if you want. There's nothing wrong with educating yourself on what leads people to behave that way. But I think it's acceptable when reading about those things to just look at it and say, yeah, these people are evil. They're just evil. They just desire death. That is what they want. They want death inside. I think that's a fine way of putting it. You can extrapolate if you want, but I don't think there's any inaccuracy in that framework. They do want to eat your soul. It is true. Yeah, what was that? Yes, a proposition on my part so radical, so Marxist, that The Simpsons joked about it 40 years ago. It's a great bit. Any classic Simpsons. So radical. Is this being implemented? This is a list of policy positions the Texas GOP have taken to. Medicine manufacturing, make it in the U.S. Labels on manufacturing must show the country where it was manufactured or processed. We oppose any state or federal medical record computer database that stores personal identifiable records on citizens without their written consent. Okay. We urge to off-label medications, procedures that can potentially be life-saving. Okay. Healthcare savings account, Texas HSA. Okay. Toxic exposure. We support the immediate implementation of the Toxic Exposure Research Act of 2015, which will ensure that the federal government will establish a database on all exposed veterans and their families. What? Veterans and their... What? This is such a niche thing. Also, why are they calling for a federal database instead of a... What is this? Veterans Affairs Armed Services? This must be some... Oh, is this the burn pits thing? The burn pits thing in the Gulf War. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember. It's like, yeah, basically someone did an oopsie and set some oil on fire and a bunch of people inhaled it. Not good. Not good. Parental rights. Haven't we been over parental rights? No wonder this is 40 pages long. We support the fundamental constitutional right of parents to... Wait, the parents don't have this constitutional right. To raise and educate their children, including the right of children to offering moral, religious training, medical care of their children, local, state, or federal laws, regulations, or policies that limit parental rights in the rearing of both biological and adopted children shall not be enacted. Parents have the God-given right and responsibility to direct and guide their children's care and moral upbringing. Parental rights depend on adult children. Okay. Whenever children are on their parents' insurance, the parents must have access to medical information, grades, and other information normally afforded to parents of minor children. So as long as you're on the health care of your parents, which basically everyone is until you're 26, their parents will have unfettered access to your medical information. So guys, hey, yeah, grades, everything. Okay. Conscientious clause, life-affirming healthcare. I'm getting tired of this. They've copied and pasted this. This is the same as earlier. We support legislation prohibiting and criminalizing the harvesting, sale, and experimentation or commercial use of human fetal tissue, including for vaccines, blah, blah, blah. We encourage adult stem cell research using cells from umbilical cords, from adults, alternatives to abortion. Ensuring women have medical insurance coverage up to 1 year postpartum, with making it safer for pregnant women to give birth in Texas. Oh, so that's when they're willing to give extended medical coverage. Okay. Discriminatory abortion. We support legislation such as the Preborn Non-Discrimination Act. Protect preborn children suspected of having a fetal anomaly or disability. Well, this wouldn't matter. If abortion's illegal altogether, none of this would matter. Planned Parenthood. We support completely eliminating... What? We support complete elimination of public funding for? Is this an unnecessary double negative? Am I having a stroke? What? Okay. Sure. Whatever. Repeal the anti-life 10-day rule? I don't know what the fuck this is. Criminal and civil justice. We support legislation providing for equal and consistent parenting for every child where both parents are fit, willing, and able as it is in the best interest of the child. We support reforming or replacing child protective services. We ask for any legislation to support due process. Law enforcement. Abortion homicide exemption. Oh boy. The physician homicide exemption for the Texas Penal Code section should be modified to apply only to non-elective abortions, such as requiring to save the life of the mother. Okay. Capital punishment. Properly applied capital punishment is legitimate and should be reasonably swift while respecting all due process. Police, firefighters, other first responders appreciation. Appreciation? Fucking cocksuckers. Jesus Christ. Mental health support backup. We support trained mental health personnel backup being provided to peace officers at all hours, day and night, in order to serve the public. Oh my god. These guys are more progressive than Destiny. Holy shit. Well. I'll take that. I mean, if you could replace like a cop duo with one cop and like a mental health professional, like social worker next to them, that's an improvement. They get paid less too. Cheaper. Though, knowing how this is all planning out, those mental health professionals will probably look exactly like the cops, right? Like it's like you have two people right next to each other. One's a cop and one of them's the mental health professional. They're both in SWAT gear, you know? Protection from arbitrary stops. The Texas legislators to enact legislation protects from arbitrary stop, detention, or arrests for only openly carrying a firearm. Improve no-knock warrant procedures to protect law enforcement in the community. Dude, no-knock raid reform is such a, like, no-brainer that even these fuckers are, like, talking about it. Jesus Christ. Oppose riots. Really. We oppose riots, vandalism, looting, and condemn any such conduct. We advocate each and every said criminal act be dealt with immediate arrest, imprisonment, and prosecution, the fullest extent of the law. We believe laws should be enforced uniformly and that punishment should meet the crime. Law enforcement should never be used to target individuals for political purposes. Oh, nice. We oppose the targeting of police officers by progressive district attorneys. Thank you. Oh, we shouldn't deliberately target people for their political views. How are we going to substantiate that one? Ah, yes, the very real... What they mean, basically, is that they would have let Derek Chauvin off. We support automatic and prompt expunction of law enforcement officials' records who are found not guilty. Holy shit! Expunction of records when found not guilty? You don't even want to keep that shit on the record? Like, you know, in case a similar case comes up in the future? Which might provide further context to previous... Okay. Literally, like, destroy the evidence. Like, if you can't get this guy guilty... What this also means is that anything that gets brought to trial is going to have it be erased from the record unless you get the conviction. And overwhelmingly, the convictions are not, like, obtained, which means that essentially every cop, no matter how bad their record, is like a ghost when you're trying to prosecute them. Record expunged every time. Usually can't bring in prior cases anyway because of prejudice. Not in, like, official informing of the current case or whatever, but they can absolutely bring... information to the prosecution in terms of like what to look at. Like, for instance, if there's an existing case, like say for example, you've got a guy called like Dick like Pants Strangling Thomas, you know? And the reason he's called that by the force is because he's had 87 exonerated cases before where he strangles people, black people, to death by their pants, you know? And you know, you've got him in with another case here. And you've got a little bit of time before the prosecution has to make their case. You know, you've only got so much time to gather evidence. What are you going to look for? You're going to look for the pants strangling. That's the angle you're going to go for. You're going to look at the pants. You're going to see, do they look like they've been crumpled recently? Are there pants corduroy striation marks present on the victim's neck? You know, is the lividity consistent with pants strangling? You know, that's what you got to look at. Real Disco Elysium stuff. Real spoiler stuff. All right. He strangles people. Strangles them with his pants. That's what he does. I don't fucking care. Oh, wait, sorry, not. Vaush doesn't care. Dick Thompson doesn't care. Strangle him. Strangle him right by him pants. Pantsy style. Give him the pantsin. Pantsed him. Sorry. Wait, is this a real thing? Everything that I just said out loud is completely verifiably true. Verified by real American patriots. I don't want to read this anymore. Human victims. Oh, that's nice. We support rule of law and enforcement of laws which maintain an ordered republic. We call for an independent prosecutorial authority to prosecute crimes that maintain order, such as sedition, riot, official oppression, election integrity, etc., to be delegated to a statewide officer such as an attorney general. Remember, they want statewide officers to be elected via the electoral college, i.e., questions of election integrity, sedition, and rioting will be delegated to a politically chosen official handpicked by essentially the state GOP. Cool. We urge repeal of the Texas obscenity exception that allows children access to harmful, explicit, or pornographic materials under the guise of education. State of Texas should repeal all laws based on the fraudulent research by Dr. Alfred Kinsey. I wonder what their problem is with this guy. Abolish civil asset forfeiture. Oh, that's good. I agree. Don't government surveil. Hate crime. We urge the complete repeal of hate crime laws, since ample laws are currently in effect to punish criminal behavior towards other persons. We know. We believe religious institutions have the freedom to recognize and perform only those marriages that are consistent with their doctrine, of course. Pandemic business fines. Okay. Heritage preservation. The Alamo is a historic event to Texas, and as such, should be... This is such a joke, dude. Should be remembered and not reimagined. Decision-making authority for the Alamo must never be removed from Texas. We call upon government entities to protect all symbols of our American and Texas heritage, and therefore we oppose government action to remove the public display of the Ten Commandments or other religious symbols. We support the Pledge Protection Act. We urge the national motto, "In God We Trust," and the national anthem. National motto according to who? Oh. Oh yeah, that's right. It is "In God We Trust." Gay. Thanks, Eisenhower. That was for that. You know when that became the motto? 1956. Fucking Cold War, McCarthyist era, anti-commie Red Scare bullshit. It's not E pluribus unum? Wait, did I just read that wrong? Out of many, one? Wait. Then where is "In God We Trust"? No, "In God We Trust" is the official motto of the United States. It replaced E pluribus unum. Dude, what a bitch-ass, cucky fuck, bitch, gay-ass, retard decision. You've got a cool-ass Latin term, E pluribus unum, out of many one America, out of many people. Like, you know, a symbol, a saying ratifying, like, the idea of the great melting pot. And then it's like, oh, dude, the commies are secular. We gotta own them. What about "In God We Trust"? Even though we know goddamn well that the fucking Constitution doesn't allow. Yeah, E pluribus unum just sounds too goddamn commie. Even though all it means is democracy. Fucking hate this country. No, I know, seriously. That's why I said the name the way I did. Okay, anyway, moving on. Please let me get... I'm just gonna end stream when I'm done with this. I'll read donos. Okay, I'll read donos. This is so much. Penalties should be established for any form of desecration of the American or Texas flag. Visitors to the Alamo should conduct themselves with decorum and reverence inside the shrine. Jesus Christ. By the way, the reason they're jerking off the Alamo so much here is because it's a symbol of Texas independence, and that's what they're gunning for here. We call for restoration of the plaques when pension funds were legally removed from the Texas Supreme Court building. Honoring the Confederate Widow Pension Fund. Okay, right. I noticed that every time something happens that they don't like, they say it's illegal. which were illegally removed from the Texas Supreme Court building. They've said this a bunch of times. Whenever they don't like something, they say it's illegal or unconstitutional, but it's just like a normal thing that happened. They just don't like it. We believe all historical war monuments, including Confederate monuments in Texas, shall be protected from future removal or defacement. And we believe those monuments that have been removed should be restored to their historic locations. They want these because they want black people to be fearful when they look at them. That's why they were put in the first place. A lot of those Confederate monuments were put in not right after the Civil War, nor during the Civil War, not before the Civil War, but instead during the Civil Rights Movement. I wonder why. Most support the contingency funds. Serve the USS Texas. Individual rights and freedoms. Have we not literally done this before? We have literally done this before. Religious freedom of speech and practice. As America is one nation under God, founded on Judeo-Christian principles, we affirm the constitutional right of all individuals to worship as they choose. We demand the repeal of the Johnson Amendment, which assaults the free speech of pastors and religious organizations. What does this one do? Prevents all 501c3 nonprofit organizations from endorsing or opposing political candidates. They want churches to be able to officially endorse Donald Trump. They want politically active churches, yeah. I mean, they already are functionally, but literally unconstitutional. Well, they want to get rid of that. The Texas judges and legislators uphold and defend our God-given unalienable right of... We oppose any effort to intimidate and prevent Christians and other people of faith from exercising the rights the civil government is required for. Acknowledgement that the church is a God-ordained institution with a sphere of authority separate from that of civil government, and thus the church is not to be regulated, controlled, or taxed by any level of government. Oh, cool. Okay, so no laws at all can control churches at all. Cool. No, nor shall services or other church functions ever again be shut down or suspended by overreaching civil authorities under any pretext. So it's interesting that they're using the language of the separation of church and state here only to defend the church from state impositions, but not the other way around. Like this half of this document is about how like the church should be allowed to control openly all elements of public life. It's a one-way street. The church should get to control itself and the government. The government should get to control very little other than, like, I don't know, preventing trans women from swimming or something. Oh, speaking of... God, I'm so smart. Gender identity. For the 14th time, we have to bring this up. Just buzzword culture war bullshit the document. No government entity in the state shall be allowed to take it upon itself to define for any private business or private entity how it must segregate its restrooms, changing facilities, or showers. Wait! No government entity in the state shall be allowed to take it upon itself to define for any private business or private entity how it must segregate its restrooms or showers. So if they wanted to do one big, non-differentiated... Okay. Nor may a government agency be allowed to require businesses to profess, espouse, or adopt specific views in sex, sexuality, gender, and identity. We oppose any attempt to criminalize and or penalize anyone for the wrong use of pronouns. Government agencies must guarantee that views and positions on these matters are not used as a basis to deny public consent. Civil Rights Act 1964, deny employment. Okay. We recognize that gender identity disorder is a genuine and extremely rare mental health condition, and that denial of an immutable gender binary not only denies those with the condition proper mental health care, but also leads to physically and psychologically abusive social transitioning, as well as irreversible physical mutilation. We urge the state legislature to pass legislation that requires adherence to sex identifications in all official documents that will be based upon biological gender, as well as legislation enacting civil penalties and fiscal compensation awarded to detransitioners who have received gender affirming surgery as compensation for malpractice. Cool. So essentially, biological transition will be completely illegal because anyone afterwards could sue you for malpractice for doing it. Cool. Family gender is human sexuality. Oh my god, dude, it's literally all culture war shit. It's oops, culture war cereal. There's no like so little of this is actual legislation. Guys, if you want to understand how insane this is, please go and look at like the I don't know, the Texas Democratic Party platform. You know? Like keep going, you fuck. We affirm God's biblical design for marriage and sexual behavior between one biological man, one biological woman, which is proven to be the foundation for all great nations in Western civilization. We oppose homosexual marriage regardless of state of origin. We urge the Texas legislature to pass religious liberty protections for individuals, businesses, and individuals who believe it's a one man, one woman, granting especially oppose any protect minors till age of consent. A law should be enacted to protect the rights of individuals till age of consent is reached. We've already done this. Why do they keep repeating shit? Prohibition of sexual transition surgeries, hormone blockers, social transitions, sexual behaviors, drag queen story hour. I love how I'm trying to think of like a comparable example here, you know? Like Republicans are like that guy who's really misogynistic, but whenever you ask him to explain how women are bad, he talks about his ex-girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe that I get from this. Like the scope of the issue that they're trying to talk about is so much broader than their minds are capable of like reaching. They just latch on to tiny little anecdotes that they have and they try to project that onto everything around them. Like they might as well, like honest to God, I would respect them as much if they just listed YouTube channels. I really would. I genuinely would. If they said something like against predatory grooming media up to and including ContraPoint's YouTube channel, I genuinely think in terms of how like ridiculous it is, that would not be that far off. Drag Queen Story Hour is literally just some like little like some libraries like someone read a book from it. Like it's nothing. It's so nothing. Van Vaush from Texas, yeah. Remove immunities or protections from school districts and personnel which participate in the sexualization of children. Require disclosure of the above offenses to parents and guardians. Definition of marriage, state authority over marriage. We support withholding jurisdictions from the federal court in coercive family law. Okay, good luck with that. Especially any changes to the definition of marriage. We shall not recognize or grant to any unmarried person the legal rights or status of a spouse. No-fault divorce. We urge the legislature to rescind unilateral no-fault divorce laws and support covenant marriage and pass legislation extending the period of time in which divorce may occur to 6 months after the filing of divorce. Yeehaw! Love my theocracies. Nullify unconstitutional rulings. They want gay marriage to be illegal or whatever. Adoption. I don't. Child rights. We've already gone over this. Pro-life issues. We have literally already gone over this. It's not just the individual pointers that they're repeating. They're repeating entire categories. Property annexation. We immediately repeal all limits on campaign contributions by American citizens. Yes, we know. We know, Texas Republicans. We immediately repeal all limits on campaign contributions by American citizens. The candidates are caused their choice. So billionaires can literally just insta-win any election with absolutely nothing preventing it. Yeah, we know. We urge the Texas legislature to pass bill what? In its next session, requiring a referendum in the 2022 general election, people of Texas determine whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. Great. We urge the passage of a constitutional amendment, bold, that gives the Texas Attorney General concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute. Oh, they mean state constitution. They should probably specify that. The Attorney General concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute election fraud along with the county district attorneys, right? Because they want to directly handpick the Attorney General. Marijuana remains illegal. Gun-free zone in Texas. There should be none of them. Great. Government and election integrity. Sexual harassment. We believe sexual harassment should not be tolerated. Elected and appointed officials should be held to a higher standard. That's it. They have all these hyper-specific codes for what to do if a youth is exposed to the evils of homosexuality. And then it's like, sexual harassment. Please don't do it. Federal land in Texas. All federal land should be turned over to its respective state. Insane. Jesus Christ. Tax-funded lobbying. Blah, 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 blah. Texas Speaker of the House. Commissions. Quorum. We oppose the appointment of unelected bureaucrats. But you literally want to have... Whatever. Sunset Commission. Bond elections. I don't know enough about the bond stuff to really comment on it. In-person voting should be conducted as a single period of time of no more than 3 days with no time gap between the first day of early voting and election day. We support the right of eligible voters to cast a ballot in elections, but we oppose illegal voting, illegal assistance. Really? You oppose illegality and people ineligible? Okay, really. We support voter photo ID. Vigorous enforcement of all our election laws is written to oppose any laws and lawsuits that makes voter fraud very difficult to deter, detect, and prosecute. Prohibition of internet voting, that mail-in ballots must be requested and only granted to those who cannot physically appear in person. Good luck proving that. Increased scrutiny and security in ballot by mail, increasing removal of section 87.114 of this verification. Felony status for willful violations of the election code and increased penalty for voter fraud from a misdemeanor back to a felony. Constitutional authority to regulate voting. The constitutional authority of state legislators to regulate voting, okay, change the appropriate sections of Texas law that would deny or cancel homestead exemptions, driver's license, license to carry if the address in those documents do not match the address in the current voter's registration. Consolidating elections to primary, runoff, special call, and general election days and locations. Counterfeiting, experience the staff election crimes. The ability for civil lawsuits to be filed for election fraud or failure of officials to follow the election code. Civil lawsuits to be filed for failure of officials to follow the election code? What? Okay. And yes, back here they did say they wanted to get rid of basically all of the departments. Allowing trained poll watchers from anywhere in Texas with local party or candidate approval. Creating processes that will allow rapid adjunction of election law disputes that occur before violations can be perpetrated. Repealing or fraud or voter registration. We support restoring integrity of the voter registration, reducing voter fraud by repealing all this, requiring photo ID. Why do they repeat themselves? It's so dumb. You guys get it. We encourage free speech at polling sites outside the existing boundaries. The right to campaign, including the right to display of signage with respect to current state law and appropriate distance 100 feet, shall not be infringed. Okay? Voting rights. We support equal suffrage for all U.S. citizens of voting age. We oppose any identification of citizens by race, origin, creed, sexuality, or lifestyle choices, except for, the rest of this document. And oppose use of any such identification for purposes of creating new voting districts. We urge the Voting Rights Act 1965 codified to be repealed and not reauthorized. Voting Rights Act of 1965, lads. Sorry. We don't get that either. Literally prohibits racial discrimination in voting. But they don't want to bias by race. Yeah, we're speed running the claps. God. I knew this would take forever to go over. They unironically want Jim Crow. One, no, don't be fucking stupid. They want worse than Jim Crow. They want you dead. You have to understand, Jim Crow was something that white Southerners wanted so little that they literally died to prevent it from happening. The idea of black people being second-class citizens as opposed to slaves was so bad that they seceded and fought a war over it. Jim Crow was their compromise. They've been compromising ever since. Nothing short of a complete re-examination of the right wing in this country is going to be enough to get rid of these tendencies. We support drawing districts based on eligible voters, not pure population. Districts should be geographically compact when possible. We oppose any redistricting map that is unfair to conservative candidates in the primary or general election. Basically, just admitting that they're in favor explicitly of any that are unfair to progressive candidates. Like, you can't be more explicit than this. This is all military stuff and immigration. We demand that state and federal law enforcement officers enforce immigration laws, implement and exit entry. Any form of amnesty with regards to illegal immigration should not be granted, including the granting of legal status to persons in the country illegally or merit-based, total number of immigrants limited to a level that facilitates assimilation, right? I don't care about any of this. Uh-huh. We urge the Texas legislature to invoke Article 1, blah, blah, known as the State Self-Defense Clause, which asserts that under an active invasion, as defined by the governor of the state or Texas legislature, the sovereign state of Texas has the authority to defend Texas citizens against imminent danger, not admitting delay, by any and all appropriate measures the sovereign state defines necessary to defend from such assaults. Immediately equip the Texas military with the necessary tools and authority to serve and protect Texas territories and citizens. Now, what do you think the state of Texas, their legislator, a Republican or Republican governor, would define as a active invasion? Yeah, it says up here, no transes. In the military. But we knew that. Sanctuary cities, no. Border security and immigration. Suspected illegal alien. Biometric identity of suspected illegal aliens be compared with the data of biometric identities of current and past suspected illegal aliens before further processing. Suspected illegal aliens? A suspected illegal alien whose biometric identity matches biometric identity captured for a prior attempted illegal entry shall remain in custody and the case expedited as a probable attempt at a second or subsequent illegal re-entry. Suspected illegal aliens of any age must remain in custody until final determination of their immigration status. Okay. Sure. We call for the permanent end of the H-1B foreign worker visa program in the interest of protecting American jobs, classified technology, and national security. Aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. We support revoking the 501c3 tax-exempt status of any org that breaks state or federal law by knowingly aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. We support disbarring attorneys who knowingly aid and abet illegal immigrants. Nice. Very good. Texas National Guard deployment and benefits. Okay. Foreign affairs. Trade with China. Look at China aggression. They're pro-Israel. U.S. Embassy in Israel relocation to Jerusalem. Sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Right to exist. Secure borders. Right to the land secured by practicing self-defense from aggressive enemies. Jesus Christ, dude. Right to the land secured by practicing self-defense against aggressive enemies. I.e., like, they're fucking quickie land grabs. Whenever the IDF decides that they're going to, like, stir up hell in a given area. Prohibition of a Palestinian state within the historical borders of Israel would jeopardize Israel's security and force Israel to give up land that God gave to the Jewish people, as referenced in Genesis. Remember how I've said before that the only reason Christian fascists want, the only reason they want Christian fascists, the only reason those fascists want, Jews in Israel is because it's part of, like, the doomsday prophecy. God, I'm sorry. It's been It's a long document. The Doomsday Prophecy, the Full Metal Alchemist meme. Yeah, they believe that the rapture can only come when the Jews control Israel. Prohibition of the anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement as a form of warfare being waged on Israel. Boycotting being a war, okay. Including and especially on college campuses, at the UN, and by anti-Western non-governmental organizations. Is there a Christian doomsday prophecy, Vaush? Yeah, fundy Christians believe that the rapture is going to come any day now. Seriously, fundamentalists believe these are the end times, and they believe that in order for the rapture fucking ending, in order for them to get the coveted secret rapture ending to humanity, Jews need to control Israel. It is a patently theocratic justification for supporting Israel. I actually appreciate this document because it's open about it. The only reason, like the actual reason right here, that they're supportive of the land grabs by Israel is because it's part of their Genesis doomsday cult bullshit. Yeah. They're not pretending it's about like, historic ally, only democracy in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. They're very direct with it. They also believe Jesus will come down from the heaven and kill all the Jews in Israel. Yes, needless to say, the Jews will not fare well during the rapture. They're essentially sacrificial lambs, except sacrificial lambs go to heaven, and they think the Jews are going to hell. So, Taiwan, one world. U.S. is a sovereign nation based on the concept of freedom. We reject any assertion of authority over our nation or its citizens from foreign individuals or entities, such as the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations. None of these entities have authority over the United States. What do they think the World Economic Forum does? We reject the concept of a one world government or the Great Reset. This is JQ posting, yeah. This is just JQ posting. Yeah. The UN. The UN is a detriment to the sovereignty of the US and other countries. Because of that, we support our withdrawal from the UN, the removal of the UN from US soil, the opposition of placements of US troops in the UN command, rejection of all related NGOs, councils, and environmental programs, zero budget allotment of American tax dollars to programs, withdrawal from the corrupt WHO. They have to say corrupt here because that's also a culture war thing. They say corrupt here because that's what Trump would say. He would say corrupt WHO. A credible, impartial, and international investigation into the WHO and China's actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yep. Organization, the child. Rejection of the ratification of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, because they want children to be exclusively the property of their parents, the fascism of the household. They want the rejection of the Convention on the Rights of the child. Neat. The rejection of any attempt to allow the UN or any other foreign entity to levy taxes on the US or citizens. What? What do they think is happening? What taxes are being levied by the UN? What the fuck does that mean? Ah, yes, I remember. I had to be very careful when filling out my my tax return this, for the 2021 fiscal year. I had to make sure I was meeting those UN dues. Oh, I thought we were done. Resolutions. Oh, this is a whole other category. Oh, wait, we are done. Oh, thank the Lord, this is the last page. We believe the 2020 election violated Article 1 and 2 of the U.S. Constitution, that various secretaries of state illegally circumvented their state legislators in conducting their election multiple ways. Fraudulent ballots received after November 3rd. We believe the substantial election fraud came into 12 areas, affect the results of 5 key states in favor of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. We reject the certified results of the 2020 presidential elections, and we hold that acting President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was not legitimately elected by the U.S. We strongly urge all Republicans to work to ensure election integrity and show up to vote in November of 2022. Bring your friends and family. Volunteer for your local Republicans. Overwhelm any possible fraud. Call to action. This is the guy who leads the Texas GOP. What? Why are you linking me to this? Of what relevance is this? I'll kill you.
Joining us now.
Voting that the Republican Party continues to engage in.
Gotcha. Matt, let me ask you, the Democrats having all kinds of problems. What about the Republicans? What are you hearing?
We're not hearing any problems at all, actually. And first of all, I do want to congratulate Gilberto on the case he won as an attorney.
And I expect that we're going to have.
I don't care about this and I hate you. Red flag laws. Okay, this is just gun control shit. Notice how overwhelmed any possible fraud is the last sentence before they talk about Second Amendment shit? Yep. Alright, we did it, guys. We went through the entire thing. Vaush, any hopium for us? I'm not a miracle worker here. I'm just a competent rhetorician. Yes, these people are foundationally evil. They want you to die. And literally anything that can be done to keep them from attaining power is morally justifiable. We're basically talking about the end of the world if people like them are in charge. So, you know, there's a lot of leeway, a lot of elbow room in between where we are now and where, you know, where we could be. So at the very least, go out and vote. What's the most we can do? Listen, there's not a lot you can do right now, okay? Move people over where you can. Oftentimes, yeah, vote for Beto, I guess. Yeah, there you go. Oh, also, I just want you guys to know that pretty soon we're coming up in the 2022 elections, and I still have to ramble about all the campaigning, volunteering, canvassing stuff. And I want you guys to know that given this, any anti-electoralism in chat will be met with an immediate and painful death at my hands. I'll be like Slender Man or whatever, okay? You know, I see that shit in my chat, I'll teleport behind you in real life.